The reason I have this plane is because I've clicked the eyeball. So when you bring Jonesy in, the eyeball is unchecked. So whoever created it got rid of the plane just to get it out of the way. So you can click the eyeball to get the plane, and that's kind of the floor. If you don't want it there, you can get rid of it, but I kind of like it just to make sure the object is in the right place, the person. So he's crouched down, not very realistic as far as a jump goes. So I need to maybe swing the arms back a little bit. So I'm going to grab the arms, and I'm actually going to go back into quad view, Control-Alt-Q. So my rotations are good. Now I'm going to rotate it over here this time, because this rotation will go back and forth, the arm this way. This rotation makes him go this way, the arm. The above rotation makes it go this way. So I want this rotation down here, the bottom right, the right ortho view. So if I click R to rotate, I'm going to bring his arms back a bit. His hand needs to rotate as well. So click R and rotate that. Okay, and that's pretty good for now. Also, if I click the arm, I can click the green button to translate, and that moves his elbow. Okay, so I can move the elbow up a little bit so there's a little bend to it, to his arm. Now I've rotated, or I've changed the positions of the arm and the hand, so I want to do the same on the other side. So I'll hold down Shift, click the hand, Control C, and then I'll come over to this view, click the other arm and the other hand by holding down Shift, the outer edge of the hand, and then do a Control Shift V, and that changes the rotation so it's the same. I can see it up in this view. It's exactly the same. Okay, so that's a little more realistic, but we're still missing something, a couple things, because he's not going to be straight up. Once he crouches down, his body kind of comes forward a little bit. So what I'm going to do is grab the hip bone, the spine, and the upper spine, and I'm going to click R down in the right view, and that is going to make him go forward. Okay, so he goes forward a little bit. His head now is going to come forward a little bit as well, so rotate that. And that makes it a little bit more realistic. I could bring his arm back a little bit if I wanted to, since it came forward a little bit, but then I'd have to rotate it on the other side. So I won't show you that right now. Now, my frame is in the right spot. I need to hit A to select all. And then now I'm not going to do the location rotation scale. With this animation, with a rig, it's a little bit different. So I'm going to come down here to available, and all the available bones and joints and everything, it's going to set a keyframe for those. So we set the first one, location rotation scale, but after that it's all the available keyframe. And then I can scrub back and forth, and he's crouching down, getting ready to jump up, and that looks pretty realistic. Now, one thing that you won't notice unless you're real close is the eyes. But the eyes, this box right up here is the eye target. Okay, so his eyes are always going to be looking at that box. So if I make any changes after I've set the keyframe, I can come back to it. I just got to make sure I'm on that keyframe. I can grab this box and bring it down to where his eyes should be looking when he crouches down, and then I can set that individually, or I can select them all and set it to available. So now it comes down with the body, so he's still looking in the right spot. So lots of details to think about and to use, but it's just doing it a lot and getting used to it. Now, one other thing I'm going to show you is how to. Okay, so if I need to make some changes still. So one thing that's still not totally realistic is the feet. When you crouch down, your feet don't stay flat; they come up a little bit in the back. The heels come up, and so I can grab his foot and rotate it. And his foot rotates, so his heel comes up. Can't see it too well in that view, but if I go back out to the main view, let's see if I can get it here. Okay, so you can see that heel is coming up now. That's good. However, the toe is going into the ground, and we don't want that, so I need to rotate the toe as well. So if I grab the toe here, I'm going to go back to my view, or if you're in the regular view, you can just make sure you're hitting 3, 1, and 7 for your different views. And that way the rotation will be right on. So if I hit 3 and then rotate, I can bring it back up to the floor level, and then his toe stays flat and his heel comes off the ground. Pretty realistic. Now I did it to one side, so I need to hold down shift. Now there's a big toe right over here, but I don't know that that does anything. It doesn't look like it does anything. So I'm just going to stick with the middle toe bone. So hold down shift, click both of them, control C, come over to the other side, and hold down shift, and then shift control V to paste that. Okay, now as I rotate around to see how it's looking, I've got another problem. His legs are together. So right here is how these boxes out here, we can move the knees out. So I'm going to move the knees out just slightly. There we go. If I wanted it perfect, I could do my control C, click over here, control shift V, and it moves it out the exact same distance. Okay, so that's pretty good. He's ready to jump. That looks great. Now I want to, well, now I'm going to go to, so I need to set all that. I don't think I even set that. So I'm going to select everything by A and hit I and available. Need to make sure we do that to set everything up right. So he crouches down, he's ready to jump. Now I'm going to go further a few frames. I'm going to swing his arms forward and start to bring him up a little bit in the next keyframe. Okay, until I get to the top of his jump, and then come back down. I'm going to set 4 or 5 keyframes for the whole jump. Okay, and depending on how many keyframes you want. Everything else in between is called an in-between frame, and those will just fill in as they are. Okay, so we need to set the keyframes, key positions that he is in. What happened to my plane? Oh, that's weird. Okay, I'll fix that later. One other thing, the last thing I wanted to show you is if there's a different view called a dope sheet. And so if we want to, now if I play this, okay, his crouch down is a little bit slow. It's not totally realistic. He's probably going to crouch down a little faster than that. So if I want to change where this keyframe is, I can scoot that over. I need to go into the dope sheet. So if I go, I'm going to open up a new menu up here. I'm going to get rid of this menu by hitting T and change the view to the dope sheet. Now the dope sheet is very complicated, especially for this character because there's tons of bones, but I'm just going to click these little arrows and get rid of all the bones. They're still there, they're just not showing. So that way I can just see the main keyframes and I can manipulate them a little bit. So I'm going to scoot that keyframe in a little bit. So I'm going to zoom in by just scrolling my mouse wheel, move over, and now I can see my keyframes. So I'm going to go to this keyframe right here, and it's the skeleton keyframe, so it's this one right there, and if I hit G, it's moving, and as you can see down on the bottom on my timeline, it's moving that keyframe. So I can move it pretty close and click, and then if I play it, he's going to crouch down a lot faster. Okay. That makes, so once we get all the keyframes in, then we can move them around to make it real time, because 48 frames, typical frame rate is 24 frames per second, so we've got about 2 seconds worth here, and that's enough for a jump, 2 seconds. So that would work. We just need to get the keyframes in the right spot to make it realistic. Okay, one other thing I failed to mention, there's tons of other things, I keep saying that, one last thing. To move it around, I don't need to use my translate. I sometimes limit myself on the translate tools, but if I just select something and hit G on the keyboard, I can move it however I want. Make him do a little jig, dance a jig. Okay, so hitting the G and then just clicking. So I can click any bone. Oh, that one doesn't do it. Any bone that moves, of course. And I can move his knee in and out. Grab his other foot, hit G on the keyboard, and that moves it to whatever position you want. You don't have to limit yourself with that translate tool. Okay, so finish the jump, animate it so it looks real, and then if we get to the point, we can render the animation.